Well, that's what the lady says, but let's find out if that's actually true. It's a good thing I got JoshWho TV on my phone. What was that? Oh, yeah, that's something I noticed recently on JoshWho TV is that little Facebook Messenger sound that's on Creation Social. It seems like he added that to the little messenger that pops up in the bottom right-hand corner of pages. Okay, let's sign in, make sure everything's here. Okay, come on. All right, here we go. Okay, so that's all the recommended and promoted. Give me the live streams. Oh, that's new uploads. Where?
I don't think you're live at my end.
Are you on JoshWho TV right now?
I'm on your channel and it's not coming up saying you're live.
Well, it's not going to show up on my channel. It would show up on the home feed. Let me try refreshing this on my phone.
Oh my God, there's a lot of stuff live here.
Yeah, let me open it up on a browser on my computer.
Yeah, so I've gone like joshwhotv.com/live. And I'm just trying to find a photo of you here.
All right, let's try this.
Oh no, here it is. Yep, I found it. It's got like a cool little thumbnail. Yep.
All right, let me make sure I see it on my end too, because that's the end that matters most. All right, that's promoted videos. Come on. La-di-da-di-da-di-da. That's all the promoteds. Where are all the... So you're seeing the front page live tab on JoshWho TV on your end?
I just sent you through on Delta Chat the link to go directly to your thing.
Okay, let me...
Can I send it on this thing? Chat?
I do not have it on my Delta Chat. Did you... What?
Did you get it in the Meet video chat?
Let me try this chat, yeah. Okay, so... Yeah, it no longer shows up. It says we aren't live. Really? Huh.
No, I went to your channel and it didn't actually have a live thing. So I went to the live streams and then it came up that way.
Well, the way it's supposed to work is there's supposed to be a tab on the front page of JoshWho TV that shows you all the active live streams going on.
It didn't pop up for some reason just then.
Yeah.
It usually does.
Let me see what I can do here.
What's the little character behind you? Is that from Dragon Ball Z or something?
Huh? Where?
The
picture?
No, the thing with the yellow hair.
Oh, you mean that?
That
is a pixelated RPG Maker style version of Gohan from Dragon Ball Z.
Oh, okay.
My sister made it for me several years ago as a Christmas gift.
Cool.
Geez, I'm just trying so hard. See, the problem I have when I go to JoshWho TV is there's not even a live feed tab. Wait. What if I live streams? JoshWho TV live streams? Oh, okay. So it's got its own page. It says we are on.
Yeah, we're on. Yeah, as I linked to the thing and it's saying it's live. But yeah, I think he's changed it in the last couple of days.
Yeah. Let me just turn down the volume on my phone. Make sure this is working. Okay, yeah. It says we're live right now. But it's showing the CD thing instead of view. Hold on. Make sure this is working. Let me see. Okay, yeah. Let me just turn on my Wi-Fi.
Need like a little laptop beside you so you can see the chat thing and the video stream.
Say what?
Need like a little laptop beside you or a tablet or something so you can just monitor the stuff working and see the chat.
Yeah, I'm doing that right now. Okay, everything seems to be good here. It just looks different than it looks different than I
Need like a little laptop beside you so you can see the chat thing.
Yeah, there's a delay on the feed.
Yeah,
Plus,
that's right.
Yeah, plus it shows our little screens on top of each other instead of my end where we're separated. That's okay. Okay, so I guess we're ready. Hello there, everyone. Sorry for dinking around for so long, but today I'm going to be talking to you about the censorship of the alleged alt-text search engines, DuckDuckGo and Qwant. And then me and my special guest, CharlieBrownAU, are going to be presenting to you alternative search engines that are not censorious like this, DuckDuckGo and Qwant and Google and the whole rest of the lot are. So, in case you're watching this for the first time, Charlie, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience?
G'day, everyone. I am CharlieBrownAU from Australia. I've been censored from all sorts of platforms. I support freedom of speech. I support open source and Linux and the truth, no matter how hurt feelings people get. I met TTOR, I think, on Gab a while ago, and I've always been promoting censorship-resistant solutions. I was promoting Gab and Minds for a while until they stabbed me in the back and got me kicked off. And then a lot of us migrated over to JoshWho TV. Josh offers the free speech video site and some email and search and some other stuff like a Jitsi Meet server. And that's the thing we're using today. Jitsi Meet is an open source secure method of video chatting to migrate away from Skype and Zoom. And
Google Hangout.
Yeah, all that sort of like video conferencing, video chat stuff. And yeah, I'm very outspoken and I'm censored off quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, I think you even got banned from commenting on both BitChute and Odyssey, if I remember right.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, I've been banned from CensorTube, CrapTube, Odyssey, Twitch. Yeah, I think I need to start a list of everything I've been kicked off.
Like Alex Jones and InfoWars has that list on some of their social media accounts of all the sites they've been kicked off of. Yeah, you should probably start one. Anywho, since you're here, let's get right into the main story that everyone's talking about right now, which is what DuckDuckGo has been up to. But before okay, I gotta get rid of that screen. There we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and screen share right now because for some people they may not even know what DuckDuckGo is, although I have a hard time imagining that at this point. So back when I first joined Gab in 2017 and joined some of the other early wave alt text sites, every time people would talk about, hey, an alternative search engine to to Google, they would say DuckDuckGo is the one you should use. And at the time, their search results actually were different and better than Google, and they said all the right things as far as freedom of speech and not tracking you and all this stuff. And so I used it for a while, and people promote it for a long time. But then a few years back, I noticed that their search results changed to where they were virtually identical to Google's. Did you notice that change at all, or did you ever use DuckDuckGo before?
Yeah, I used DuckDuckGo for a little while, but I looked into it, and there was a few people that had some information. Sarah, is it Connor or something? She's on BitChute and Odyssey. She was talking about it, and some other various people were exposing the privacy stuff that they were getting up to. So yeah, a lot of us moved over to do Qwant, SearchX, and there was another one that was temporarily around Swiss Cows. Swiss Cows was okay, but it then supported stuff like BLM and all these various political groups, and then started censoring for them. So unfortunately, a lot of these things I noticed over the years, especially with software as well, they start out like small and independent and for the community, and then they get larger, and like once they become really popular, then they get external funding, or they get bought out by a separate group, or others come into that group, and then it always changes. It always goes from like small, independent, and for the truth, and then these other external groups come in with money or whatnot, and it just gets diluted. And we see that with alt tech, stuff like Gab and Minds claims to be on our side for freedom of speech and that, and then all these sites will stab you in the back. There's always a list of stuff that you're not allowed to talk about and not allowed to reject, and that's why things like SearchX and the ability to self-host your own stuff is going to be important on the future. And it's important to support people like Justin, TTOR, and JoshWho, because they're the ones that actually stick to their morals and don't get bought out.
Yeah, I would probably turn down certain people that offer me money. It kind of depends. Like, if someone tried to pay me a bunch of money in order to help me build something or improve something, the only way I would ever accept that money is they would have to acknowledge and affirm that they have no say in what I do.
It'd have to be a public donation that has no demand behind that donation.
Basically, it's a gift.
Yeah. And I think it's shown that VC funding, which is often done from these large corporations and rich people, the money comes with terms and conditions of how you use that money. Where a donated gift it's like once off, and you're given the freedom to use that money however you want.
That sounds great. But anyway, before we get too sidetracked, we're going to return to the issue of DuckDuckGo, because, well, there's a lot of reasons why you really shouldn't use them at all. We'll start, though, with the most recent one. So I believe it was earlier today, the DuckDuckGo CEO, Gabriel Weinberg, wrote a series of tweets, and I'm going to read the first two. Mr. Weinberg said, "Like so many others, I am sickened by Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the gigantic humanitarian crisis it continues to create. Hashtag stand with Ukraine. At DuckDuckGo, we've been rolling out search updates that downrank sites associated with Russian disinformation. In addition to downranking sites associated with disinformation, we also often place news modules and information boxes at the top of DuckDuckGo search results where they are seen and clicked the most to highlight quality information for rapidly unfolding topics." Now, let me see if I have this right, Charlie Brown. Tell me if I'm wrong. Basically, DuckDuckGo CEO is saying that they've rigged their search engine, censored it, so to speak, so that sites that put out Russian disinformation are downranked and hidden, and sites that promote quality information are artificially boosted to the top and given an artificial traffic boost. Does that sound about right?
It sounds like Twitter and Facebook and the rest. And of course, who dictates what is truth and what is disinformation? Usually these so-called fact checkers. And just recently, there was a good article coming out that the Facebook fact checkers were corrupt, paid off, and incorrect. And so a lot of these groups, they have fact checkers, they have VC funding, and they have moderation teams. And all of those things working together just prevent the unfiltered truth getting out.
Yeah,
and it should be up to the individual to decide, is this truth or is this BS? And it should be up to the individual person receiving the information to choose what to do with it.
Yeah, and to add on top of that, I don't have the story in front of me, but like a month or so ago, I saw this news story about a court case that Facebook was in. And in this court case, Facebook's lawyers were forced to admit that the fact checkers and their fact checks are actually not real fact checks. They're just opinions of the people doing the fact checks. But they're allowed to say incorrect things in their fact checks because freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. So even the fact checks that we supposedly have on sites like Facebook and Twitter and whatnot, they're not even really fact checks. They're just the opinions of some paid third party that's usually on the payroll of a Soros-related group or a globalist-related group or a DNC-related group to basically censor information, like you're saying.
Yeah. Spot on, yeah. Once you start getting these groups that like pretend to be fact-checking and tell you the truth, and you look into who funds them, it's always like a lobby group, a political group, and they're always trying to steer the so-called information in a certain direction.
That is true. And you know, it's funny. At first, when I read this tweet by Gabriel, I thought, I wonder what he views as a website that's associated with Russian disinformation. And then about an hour or two ago, I actually got my answer in the form of this article by Gateway Pundit. And just like that, DuckDuckGo becomes Google. One-time free search engine now downranks conservative content, bans Gateway Pundit. This morning, we received this email from a Gateway Pundit reader. Hi, Jim. I don't know if you're aware of it, but it appears that DuckDuckGo is now filtering out your website. I switched over to their Android app back in 2020, and I could just type in thegatewaypundit.com and your site would be the first to come up. Last week, I noticed it wouldn't come up at all anymore unless I added the www in front of it. This morning, I noticed that even if I type the whole thing now, it doesn't come up at all. I just tested the DuckDuckGo search using Chrome, and searching on thegatewaypundit.com does not return your site at all, as I'm sure you are getting a bit sick of this. Best, Kevin. Thanks, Kevin. Yes, we are. Later today, we did a search on Gateway Pundit on DuckDuckGo to see what we get. If you search for the Gateway Pundit on DuckDuckGo, they do not even list the front page of our website in their search engine, and they include the Wikipedia slander and every other major hit piece on the Gateway Pundit instead. Screenshots provided. We have been disappeared. Despite having millions of readers a day, the top articles that pop up for Gateway Pundit include hit pieces that had no traffic. What adds insult to injury is that the search engines and big tech demons will allow knockoff sites to steal our content word for word, including photos and video, and that is okay. That is approved. This is the evil we are up against. And I'm not going to read the rest of the article, but apparently, according to DuckDuckGo, Gateway Pundit qualifies as Russian disinformation.
I just looked at Gateway Pundit on SearchX, and Wiki comes up before the actual Gateway Pundit site. But on MetaGear, the Gateway Pundit comes up straight away. And then on the second is Wiki.
I see. And let's just confirm. Let's just say, so Gateway Pundit doesn't come up.
Oh, you have to type the whole thing. So the Gateway Pundit.
As one word or spaced out?
I did one word.
Should I throw in the .com or what?
No.
All right, well, Gateway Pundit. Yep, you got a Wikipedia article, and you got Rumble videos, and you got hit pieces by all the usual suspects, but
the
not
fact
their
checkers.
website. Yeah, but not their actual website. So, hey, that's real news, guys. But, to be honest, Charlie, I'm not really surprised by the fact that DuckDuckGo is now behaving just like Google with hiding certain search results, artificially boosting others, banning, conservative publications. I'm not really surprised by it because 5 months ago, they actually got busted for having woke discrimination practices. In particular, I have this video, DuckDuckGo Goes Woke, Discriminates Against White Males, because of the guy who tried applying for DuckDuckGo to be some kind of app engineer position, and he was overqualified for the role, but they turned him down and claimed he wasn't qualified enough. So then he made a second application where he pretended to be a black lesbian woman, and he pretended that his grammar skills were poor. He made himself less qualified in terms of skills than he actually was, and then he hinted that he might not even be a legal U.S. citizen, and they immediately snatched him up for another round of interviews.
I think I actually sent you the article on that. I came across that too. And it's just typical, like, all these people go, oh, we want equal opportunity to hire people. But then you have, affirmative action, which discriminates against certain groups. You have all these quotas. You have all this diversity stuff. And all of it all lumped on removes the ability for businesses to choose who they actually want and who they don't want to work for them.
Yeah, and the funny part too about the this particular guy was that he showed the application and response for when he did it the first time and when he got accepted the second time. And in the email, his response he got the second time, they explained to his fake profile what all the things he would have to do as part of their team would be. And they were all the things that he listed on his original application that got rejected.
I saw an article in America a couple of years back, and the American Airline Union was trying to force the people that own the aircraft to hire a certain amount of like different groups of people. And I think they were trying to have more women and more black men. And like everyone they were trying to push in, they weren't actually experienced in aircraft flying. And they were like, what is going to happen when we just throw these people in with zero experience? And then we suddenly have like planes falling out of the sky and whatnot. It's like, how many people must die for equal outcome? And that's what all this stuff is. It's always, we want this certain outcome to happen. Mm-hmm. And we're denying the natural biology and differences in groups of people. So instead of actually just letting nature go its way and people decide what they want to do, it's like, well, we've got to have X amount of women in this, we've got to have X amount of another group in this. And yet you never see them going, well, we need more women in coal mines, or we need more women bricklaying. It's always the rich jobs and the easy aircon jobs. You never see, oh, we need 50% of women cleaning sewage out of drains or something.
Right. And, for me, if these women or these other people that we have to have, if they actually met the qualifications of the job they were applying for and could do the work, I don't think we'd have much of a problem. The issue is, though, that is often the case, the people that they push through usually aren't qualified merit-wise to do any of this stuff. And that's why you see things go down the tubes, like at DuckDuckGo.
There's a situation in the Australian fire stations at the moment that you have women that applied to become firefighters. And so you've got the women that got there on experience, qualifications, hard work, and merit. And then you have another group of women that got forced in or like let in through all this diversity stuff. And now men don't want to talk to any of the women because they can't physically see who got there on merit and who didn't. So now you have a situation that the women that actually got there and should be there through hard work, experience, qualifications, training, whatnot, on the job training, they're now annoyed with the women that just got there because they're women.
Right. Yep, I definitely have seen that too in my own work history in the past. Not a fun thing at all. It reminds me of the third Dirty Harry movie. Actually, that movie was pretty much a gold mine for this kind of conversation.
That was an excellent clip, and again, like all this stuff, it ends up impacting the society, the nation, and several groups, like, and the population. Like a lot of this stuff is like, we got to get women into this and that and that. What has been the result in the last 25, 55, 75 plus years has been the white population has dipped down below replacement level in every country in the Western Europe.
And on a side note, we've also seen the mainstream video game industry go down the tubes as well because of this kind of hiring practices at companies. Man, I remember when mainstream gaming used to be really fun back in the early mid 2000s, late 2000s, maybe early 2010s. But like over the last 7 years, the mainstream gaming industry has just gone to puke. Most of the great games that have come out in the last several years have been remakes of older games where they just simply updated the visuals and maybe updated the audio, but they didn't actually change any of the gameplay or anything.
I've been gaming since 85, and I've seen different waves go through tech and gaming, and some of the best games I played were pre-2000, and pretty much after 2005, they've all got watered down, made accessible, made to a bigger audience. And if you actually look at the franchise sequence games, it's nothing from what they used to be to now. And the same stuff is in movies as well for the franchise sequel movies. It starts out to the original system they had, and then the end result is this watered down wig pandered thing. Like there's so many games like Rainbow Six and tactical type shooters and that sort of thing where it's catering to a Pacific speech market, and they just want to like make it to everyone. And I've always been like, if you want to make it to everyone, fork the original game and then call it Game X, whatever, the new name, and then you guys can like change it. But we want our original thing left alone for a smaller audience.
Right. This whole situation you just described is actually a perfect explanation of what happened with the football video gaming world. Because back in the early mid 2000s, the EA Sports Madden series used to be great because there were 4 or 5 other companies also making NFL games they had to compete with. They had to compete with NFL Game Day, the Sony 989 Sports Studio. They had to compete with Microsoft and their NFL Fever series. They had to compete with 2K Games and the NFL 2K series. And they had to compete with Konami and their NFL Primetime series. So they had all these competitors who made good football games, or in the case of 2K and NFL Fever, better games than Madden. And so EA was forced to actually work hard and put out great football games. But then in 2003, they got Microsoft to cancel their NFL Fever series by threatening to not let them carry an Xbox copy of Madden. And then in 2004, after NFL 2K5 came out, they signed an exclusive deal with the NFL so that nobody but them can make an NFL game. And then in the 18 years that have gone since then, the Madden games have been progressively getting worse and worse and worse because they have no competition, because they made it illegal, and they have no incentive to actually put out anything great. And
that always happens, no matter if it's software or gaming or sports. Once you remove competition, there is no incentive for X group to strive, improve, and get better. They end up stagnant. They end up getting worse, and they've got no reason to change for the audience, especially if the like consumers or audience keep on buying the same crap. It's only when people stop supporting it through watching sports or buying a book or buying a video game, whatnot, and then they look for another solution, is when it drives competition.
And that's why I'm excited about the indie football gaming scene, because there's now about as many different studios and games as there was in the mainstream world 20 years ago. So in that particular niche, I guess you call it, there's a lot of competition that I think is going to breed excellence over the next few years. And we're hoping to have the same thing done with social media and search engines. It's just proving to be a lot more difficult.
And it doesn't help when the enemy, which always seems to align a certain way, they have corporate companies just acting as a slush fund. All these corporations like Amazon and Facebook and whatnot, they generate millions of dollars, and they just go to their friends to keep pushing all this stuff and buying it up. Where the actual genuine Groot's level indie people, they don't have access to millions of dollars that they can just waste on stuff that doesn't sell.
Speaking of the whole slush fund thing you just brought up, well, this brings me into the last thing I wanted to show about DuckDuckGo, which you actually referred to towards the beginning. It was Sarah Corrier's video, DuckDuckGo is funding your enemies. And since this video is only 2 minutes long, I'm going to go ahead and just play it for the audience, and then we can react to it. So that is her entire video, minus the little thing at the end that she likes to do. And yeah, it's pretty disturbing that 3 years ago, DuckDuckGo was documented as funding far left organizations, that same ones that George Soros is funding. That kind of should have been our first telltale sign to stop using the search, but I guess some people have to learn the hard way.
I got one article to show you here.
All right, let me stop sharing, and then you can share on screen.
Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen here.
Yes, I can.
Okay, so there's this gentleman on Tech Rights. He's been running a blog about corporations and software doing various shady stuff over the years, and posting about various tech and Linux and open source news. And he has done a couple of things on DuckDuckGo. And so he's got this information here, and we'll throw the link later for you guys. But yeah, he's saying the DuckDuckGo founder has a history of privacy abuse. He started a company which does domain names, which ended up using it in a database. Apparently, his motivation was not to do spread privacy, but you know, become another big platform basically, and he lays it all out. He goes into a lot of detail, saying DuckDuckGo blacklisted some other stuff. They're not complying with various stuff. They've buddied up with Cloudflare, which does censorship and privacy leaking.
Uh-huh.
And then he goes through all the stuff that like Amazon and Amazon hosting does, and Microsoft and what they do. So this is a really good article that gives you a deep dive into the background stuff that DuckDuckGo is up to. And then he also did a video about how the DuckDuckGo headquarters are small, and why people should avoid DuckDuckGo. So I'll link these 3 articles so everyone can check it out for themselves.
That is definitely a good article that I was not aware of, for sure. All right. Did you just end your screen share?
Yep.
Okay.
I thought we'd go back to you.
Okay, because, yeah. Oops, that is not the screen share button. This one is. Okay. Boink. And we're going to go back to this. So we've gone into a whole bunch of reasons why you shouldn't use DuckDuckGo. And then people will naturally think at this point, if they're part of the alt tech world, oh, well, I guess Qwant is safe then. Sarah promoted it 3 years ago, and a lot of people have promoted Qwant in the wake of DuckDuckGo's demise. I use Qwant now and then from time to time for a while, and this is what Qwant looks like in case you've never seen it before. It looks kind of like Google, but it's not. And I noticed over time that they too, their search results suddenly, when they used to be better than Google's, suddenly they're really similar to Google's. And then today I got a little bit of insight into why that is. So here on screen, I have a tweet by Qwant's official Twitter account from March 1st. And they wrote, #Ukraine-Russia war. In accordance with the EU sanctions, we have removed the Russian state media RT and Sputnik from our results today. The neutral web should not be used for war propaganda. So, just like how DuckDuckGo is blacklisting the Gateway Pundit, Qwant is now blacklisting RT and Sputnik from showing up on their search engine, which we can confirm right here. Just type in RT. And you get links to their app on the App Store and a YouTube video. I guess their YouTube channel, but as far as their website goes, doesn't show up there on that first page, which it should. And then let's do the other one. Sputnik. Did I spell that right? I didn't make sure I spelled that one right. Sputnik. Yeah, I spelled it right. And where is it? Oh. No, I guess they lied about that one. I think that's Sputnik. Well, looks like Qwant told a fib there in their tweet, but they did blacklist RT. We can confirm that for you on screen.
And it is pushed down.
Yeah, it's pushed down to result 3 instead of result 1. But then again, Sputnik's also a satellite, so I did just say Sputnik with no further qualifiers. So I don't know. I guess they're not blacklisting that one. But they are doing blacklisting RT, which I do find a little disturbing because RT, as far as I can tell, isn't all that bad or different anyways from other sites that people would consider good.
Plus, it annoys me that they always come out with these like selective picking thing. It's like, well, if you're going to block this for telling fake news, it's like, well, time to go and block CNN and Fox News and Australian ABC News and you name it. All of them have been shown over the years to lie and spread false information and to cover up actual information. Yet all these news companies are never actually held accountable. They never have to apologize. They never have to pull the information and have a court case or anything. They always seem to get funding from government or lobby groups. And they're the ones on.
And they're the ones getting artificially boosted on all these search engines too.
Yeah. YouTube were caught paying various news outlets money on top of like all the money that the news corporations get to artificially boost them on YouTube over individual creators.
And not just that, back in 2018 in the summer, they had a blog post where they admitted that they took $10 million or something like that, and they basically spent it on helping these legacy media corporations grow and develop their YouTube channels.
And that just shows how, like, the mainstream, which is basically government controlled sector of industry, like news, media, whatnot, you know, they can't succeed on their own merit and own hard work. You know, they always have to get artificially pushed up and a leg over and extra corporate slush funds and extra help. And yet, you know, independent people and small organizations, you know, even though those people telling the truth, they'll never get a fair go. And that's what I hate about equality. Equality is never about holding everyone to the same exact standard and giving everyone a fair go. It's always, we got to give these groups a leg over. We got to give more money to X group. It's never actually letting the free market choose and seeing the competition or ideas win out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if it was that, it would be the indie creators who are on top, even more than they already are.
For sure.
So anyway, at this point in the stream, I think it's pretty obvious why we shouldn't use Google or DuckDuckGo or Qwant, especially the last two. And so alternatives to those are in order. I'm going to present the first one to you, and then I will turn it over to Charlie, and he'll present you other ones that he has mentioned to me in the past. The first one, the one that I've been using for years, is called JoshWho Search. It is made by the same person who made JoshWho TV and this live stream system we're on, as well as Loop and all of his other websites. Basically, the way he described it is he took the Google algorithm that was whatever it was a few years ago, and he stripped out all of the stuff they used to censor results. So he basically purified it back to what the Google algorithm originally was when it first came out in whatever year that was. And the results it gives you are much different than the ones you get today on Google. And most of the time, they're a lot better. And of course, the thing that makes his search engine different, let me just say, Mark. Oh, I hit the caps lock. Mark Geis. The thing that makes it different is the ability to filter by websites. So you can filter by mainstream sites like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. You can filter by alt text sites like JoshWho TV, Minds, BitChute, Loop, and Odyssey, and Rumble, and Gab. And you can filter results by JoshWho News, and you'll get results that are specifically found on those sites. And I used to use this all the time a couple of years ago to find BitChute channels and videos. I would just type in a content creator's name or type in a topic that I know is being covered on BitChute, and I would just filter by BitChute, and it would give me a whole bunch of stuff. And usually it was really relevant to what I was looking for. And I was like, dang, this is so much better than all the mainstream engines. And so I've been promoting this search engine for quite a while. In fact, back in 2019, I did a BitChute video titled JoshWho Solves BitChute Search Engine Problem, where I showed off the site in more detail than I just did. And I made the suggestion that BitChute should integrate it into their website to help people find videos on it. Of course, then BitChute refused to do it because they claimed, well, there's Google tech involved, so we don't want anything to do with it. And then they roll out their own search engine where they do all the same censorship stuff that Google does. So, yeah, that was a whole load of hooey back in that day. But that is one search engine in particular that you guys should definitely try and check out. And it's been very helpful for me when researching topics, doing research for writing books, doing research for videos, and all manner of things. But I'm going to let Charlie take over at this point, and he can show you the other search engines that he's aware of in the alt tech world.
Alrighty, so the two I regularly use lately has been SearchX and MetaGer. I was using Qwant for a bit, but as TTOR mentioned they have been getting worse. So we've got Metagear, and that's an open source search engine, which is hosted in Germany. But you can actually get the source code and self-host your own search engine. And then the other one that I really enjoy using is SearchX, without the H in it. And this instance of it, the server is actually in Germany as well, but there's a huge list of various public instances you can go to, or you can self-host your own and then control what's filtered and what's not filtered. So they offer the source code to the search engine, and this is their main website, searchx.me. And that's their homepage where you can gain the documentation, find the public listings of servers. So we'll just quickly go into that. And it lists, there's ones on the Tor Onion network and whatnot. And then it was for a while. Maybe I need to add something, but yeah. Let's add that. Did that go?
So basically, it's like Mastodon, but for search engine instead of a social media site.
I guess, yeah. Like Mastodon is a self-hosted social thingy, and then all their source code for SearchX is on GitHub, and that's a source code website. So yeah, you could grab this, put it on a Raspberry Pi, put it on a secondhand computer or something, and you could then host it internally, or you could open it up to the rest of the world if you wanted on a dedicated server on the internet.
I see.
So I always find that open source and self-hosted solutions are better than these commercial ones, which you have to pay for, because there's nothing stopping them down the track in like 3 months, 6 months, whatever months time to go, oh, we've changed our mind, or a corporation has bought us out, and now we're not going to offer function X or feature X. And there's been several programs I've seen over the years, especially in the medical industry, where you pay for something and it runs on this like expensive bit of hardware. And then down the track, they're like, oh, no, you've already spent like $4,000 on this, but we've changed our mind. And now you have to pay every 6 months. So that's why open source is so good. It's transparent. You can see the code. You can change the code. And if anyone using that product changes their mind, then you can just go back to the original code and do it yourself.
Yep, makes it totally easy.
And I found the searches are really good in SearchX. And yeah, it doesn't seem to block anything. We'll just have a quick look at RT. If it comes up.
I'm curious about that as well.
And there you go,
there
RT.
you go.
RT was the first one.
Try Gateway Pundit too.
And
since
one of the good,
DuckDuckGo is banning, let's try that one too.
One of the good things is it cloaks YouTube links into the privacy interface, and that's another thing you can do with a lot of platforms these days. Is you can go to a site in a privacy instance where it doesn't share your data as well. So we'll try the Gateway Pundit. I spelled it right. And yeah, they came up first, and then second was Wiki, and then mainstream stuff. So yeah.
Well, at least they came out first, like they should.
So yeah, I definitely recommend adding SearchX and JoshWho, and then as a tertiary backup, Metagear.
Yeah, the more options we have, the better, especially if they're open source and people can host their own version of it. That's all the more the merrier. That's what we need.
With browsers like Iridium, Ungoogle Chromium, and LibreWolf, you can just by going to the site, it gives you an option of adding it, and then you have an option in the search bar. It's like, what do you want to use? And it comes up. So yeah. I'll leave TTR take over now.
Yeah, and to add to that last point you made, I basically did the same thing with Iridium, because you can go in there and you can set the browser to you can set the browser search engine default to whatever you want. Like they have like the defaults like Google and Bing and DuckDuckGo and Qwant, but then you can add a search engine and make it the default one that you use every time you just type something in on the URL bar. And so, yeah, I was able to set JoshWho Search to my default search engine on this browser, and I have no doubt I could do the same thing with Searx or Metager or any other ones that could be mentioned in this stream or at any other point. That's the nice part about these browsers, is that we're not stuck with this censored mainstream gobbledygook. We can literally just custom our browsers to whatever we want.
That's a good thing about browsers being open source as well. Like all the customization you can do on search and whatnot couldn't be done like on a typical browser like Netscape and Internet Explorer back in the day, because it had hard locked features. It's like you're searching with this, and like we've seen browsers over the years get paid to promote search engines, and Linux Mint was in trouble recently because it was revealed that various search engines were paying them to include their default search criteria, and various browsers were getting picked as a preference in Linux Mint over different other options.
Yeah, that also reminds me too, since we're talking about browsers and search engines, when Gab first rolled out the Dissenter web browser in 2019, they made DuckDuckGo the default search engine for the browser. In retrospect, that's hilarious. And it kind of also maybe should have tipped our hand to what Gab was really all about, because we've seen what's happened to Gab in the last couple of years with their censorship.
Well, again, Dissenter is a good example of what to do. Like they grabbed the Google Chromium source code.
Well, they actually grabbed the Brave browser specifically and just changed the labeling on it and added two other things.
But still, I mean, Brave is based off the open source Chromium.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they stripped out Brave and Google stuff and just slipped their logo in, and maybe did a little bit of work in the first few months, but then they just ditched it. And then they moved on to their latest grift, and then it was, the Gab TV, which was paywalled for like premium pro people only. And I'm sure in a couple of months they'll have some other thing, like you mentioned on one of your videos, that the marketplace was paywalled as well. So this is the importance of open source. If a project was originally open source, it means you don't lose that. You can then fork it and get a whole bunch of people to fund that site or whatever you need. And you don't have to rely on these grifters or corporations to keep stuff going.
And since we mentioned the Gab marketplace, I do find it hilarious how Andrew Torba marketed this thing as like the next great competitor to Amazon. And then it comes out and it's literally no different than the marketplace I have on Creation Social, which is so basic and rudimentary. It's nothing special at all. And I've noticed too that not long after he rolled this marketplace out, he stopped talking about it after like 5 days or so. He hardly ever mentions it anymore. And this was supposed to be the Amazon killer.
Yeah, so it's like the same thing with Dissenter all over again.
Yeah, Dissenter was supposed to be the big free speech web browser, and Gab TV is supposed to be the big YouTube alternative, and Gab Trends was supposed to be the big Drudge Report alternative, and Gab Chat was supposed to be the big Discord alternative. And basically, other than Gab Social and Gab TV to a little bit of an extent, all the other stuff they've done has gone by the wayside. Actually, the original version of Dissenter that they did, where it kind of had Gab Trends and Chat and the basic comment on every website feature of Dissenter all rolled into one site and browser extension, that was something really good that could have gone somewhere, and they decided instead to basically strip everything out and turn them into different sites, and they went nowhere.
The comment thing they had was really good, but I think they've got external groups complaining about it, and that's why they sort of abandoned the Dissenter commenting on sites, because there was a lot of mainstream sites that were quite upset that people could comment and discuss things, yet on their internal site, like their news mainstream sites, they were actually locking out conversation. So it was allowing people to have free debate and discussion. And these people didn't like it because they're the gatekeepers of news, information, and what is the so-called truth.
Yeah, Dissenter was really fun for that purpose. I mean, there were never that many people using it. I think only 125,000 people were using Dissenter at the peak of its run, and they mostly just used it to comment on mainstream news articles that had comments turned off, and they used it to comment on YouTube videos, which some of the comment sections of those Dissenter sessions on YouTube videos got really big. Like they had more comments than the actual YouTube comment section did in various cases. But that was one of the good things that Gab actually rolled out. That was actually good. And they destroyed it. And instead, they've created all these other half-baked products that they've put basically no work into. They basically just slap something together, call it free speech and amazing, and basically Torba tries to use his marketing skills to build them up as these amazing things, but they've all been duds.
Talking along this topic, we should bring up stuff like Signal and Telegram, that they were grifting to be free speech and privacy respecting alt-tech alternatives, and there's been lots of information coming out about how both Signal and Telegram are compromised. They're making money off data. They're not encrypted by default for a lot of their aspects on their messaging platform. And both Signal and Telegram demand an SMS number just to be able to send a message to someone. And we've seen with the Delta Chat program that it offers everything that Signal and Telegram can offer, but it doesn't demand on the user to have a centralized cloud account. It doesn't require a SMS number, and it's everything on Delta Chat is encrypted. So I recommend everyone check out Delta Chat for encrypted safe messaging. Both myself and TTOR have done a video on Delta Chat. And of course, if you don't have a email account that works with Delta Chat, go over and check out JoshWho TV, because he offers a free email service and it's compatible with Delta Chat, where Proton and Totonana, I think this is called, they have their own special encryption service which is not compatible with Delta Chat.
Right. And then I think you can also use like Gmail and the other mainstream email accounts to create
so Hotmail, Gmail, and a lot of the traditional so-called free, at least free cost email servers, they have been running POP3 and SMTP, which are the standard email protocols. But because of these so-called privacy web-based email programs, they're not using those protocols on the free accounts. They offer it on their paywalled pro accounts, but not the free ones. So that's why I'm recommending set up a separate email for Delta Chat. It's free, open source, it's transparent, doesn't need the cloud, doesn't need a corporation, and yeah, it's the best messaging program I've used in the last couple of weeks.
I would definitely agree with that completely. As someone who uses Delta Chat every day, it's like Charlie said, it's like Telegram, it's like Signal and or WhatsApp or anything else you want to name. It's like all those things, but actual security, actual privacy, really good encryption, and you can just use an email address. And from what I understand, you can actually message anyone on the planet that has an email address through this thing. You don't need them to have Delta Chat to be able to use.
That's right. Yeah, if you send a message to someone through a standard email and they don't have Delta Chat, then it's not encrypted. That way the person at the other end can receive it, and then you can actually set up a thing at the bottom of your message to say, hey, you should install Delta Chat, and you can give them a link.
Right.
So that's an option you can do in Delta Chat, and that way once they associate that email with Delta Chat, then all the messages are encrypted both ways.
Yes, and that's the advantage of getting other people on to Delta Chat as well. But yeah, the only needing an email, that's the best thing you can ask for in today's world.
Especially when we have a good trusted email provider like JoshWho.
Exactly. So I think that's about all that I had planned to cover. I think we've been going at this. Yeah, we've been going at this quite a while. So I think Charlie and I are going to call it good here, and we'll see you next time on our respective channels. And I'll have to do live streams like this more often with more people. Any last words you want to impart on our viewing audience, Charlie?
Embrace the truth, embrace open source and privacy, migrate away from corporations and the cloud, and yeah, make sure everyone is over on JoshWho TV, because I expect everyone that says certain opinions to eventually get purged from BitChute and Odyssey.
Yeah, it seems to be heading that way for sure. And as far as my parting words go, stop using Google, stop using DuckDuckGo, stop using Qwant, stop using Bing. Use a good search engine like JoshWho Search or Sirex or Metager. Use any of those three and you'll have all the fun you used to have on search engines back in the day. And like Charlie said, you should get on sites like JoshWho TV if you're into video content and creating video content, because you have actual freedom on the site. There's no censorious community guidelines, no hate speech policy, no policy that says that you can be censored even if you don't violate the guidelines. You don't have a lying grifter asking for, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month to run the site when the whole thing is run on just a couple $100 a month. So yeah, if you want to avoid being associated with a lying grifter, you should definitely join sites like JoshWho TV and Loop and my site, Creation Social. So anyway, that's all for now, and we'll see you next time. Toodles.